So, Pride and Prejudice is a romance novel, and written by Jane Austen, and it's got a lot of pride in there, and a lot of prejudice too, and people really struggle with it for 400 pages or however many. It depends on the edition you have of the book. Anyway, it takes place in 18 whatever England, somewhere between the Queen Elizabeth. I don't know. If you've seen Downton Abbey, it probably looks like that, I think. Yeah. So there's this family, the Bennets, and there's his dad, and he doesn't really do anything, and whenever anyone asks him to do anything, he just kind of goes, eh. And then there's this mom, and she just spends the whole book freaking out about stuff, and they wanted a son, but instead they had these 5 daughters. There's Jane, not the same one who wrote the book. Don't make that mistake. That's very confusing. And then there's Elizabeth, who everyone's obsessed with. And then there's Mary and Kitty, and I don't really know why they're in this book. They have no character development. They just sit around reading and drinking tea and not attracting any men. I think one plays the piano. And then there's Lydia, who actually does stuff and moves the plot. But yeah. So, this one day, there's this new guy, Bingley, who moves in next door. And, Mrs. Bennet's one of you needs to marry him because he has a lot of money. And, they don't have a lot of money. They're white trash because Dad was supposed to be saving up money, but he didn't feel like it, I guess. So, yeah, they go over and they introduce themselves, and Jane and Bingley hit it off, and they fall in love at first sight. He's got this sister too, Caroline, who's kind of a snob, and she's don't marry her because she's white trash. Yeah. And he also has this best friend, Mr. Darcy, whose first name is Mr. Every character's first name is Mr. If you Googled, most popular baby names of 18 whatever, I'm pretty sure Mr. is, number 1. But yeah. So then there's, this party where all the characters conveniently meet up at, and there's all this dancing. And there's this one asshole just, standing in the corner. Turns out it's Mr. Darcy, and he's I'm not gonna dance with Elizabeth because she's not pretty enough. And Elizabeth hears this, and she gets kind of sad and mad because she knows she's white trash and she doesn't want to be white trash, and yeah, but she's really sarcastic, so she has that going for her. So then probably a few days later or something, I don't know, this guy Collins comes over, whose first name is also Mr. And he's Elizabeth, you want to marry me? And she's I know that you're really important because you're gonna inherit all my dad's stuff, when he dies, but, I don't really like you, bro, and even though it would help us not be so white trash if I married you, I'm not gonna do that. So, yeah, then Collins gets kind of sad, and he decides he'll just go marry her best friend, Charlotte, instead, because she has low standards for men, I guess. Then, later, Mr. Darcy pops on over, and he's Elizabeth, I know you're really white trash, and I'm super rich, but you seem okay. You want to marry me? And Elizabeth's well, this is worse than Collins. No. So, she's really good at getting men to propose to her. Yeah. Well then, shift the scene, then Lydia just decides to run off with this guy and marry him. His name is Wickham. He kinda sucks, but she thinks he's cool because he's in the military and he probably has his own tank or something. And yeah, they get married. Everyone just freaks out, but eventually they get over it, and then Mrs. Bennet's just like, well, gee, 1 down, 4 to go. This is hardly progress. It's been like 200 pages or however many, depending on your edition of the book. So, oh, and Jane and Bingley get married too, but that's hardly interesting at this point. Yeah. So then, Darcy and Elizabeth, they, like, get over all their pride and probably their prejudice, and then they get married too. So, I mean, that's basically the end.